Right, let's get more reaction now from Dr. Allan Boesak. He joins us now virtually from Cape Town, I think. Doctor, thank you very much for your time here on Newslink. Of course, you and I were just talking right now, and you're telling me about how broken your heart is because this is one of your closest friends.
Yes, it is. It comes after the death of yet another very close friend of over 40 years, somebody who's been at my side in the struggle almost at every turn. And now, today, a day after Christmas, we hear about the death of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So, yeah, my heart is being squeezed at the moment by all of this.
Mm. And when last were you able to speak to the Archbishop? Was it recent at least? And if you were able to speak to him recently, how was he?
No, I did not see him after his birthday. I kept in touch with his priest, who went to see him and share communion with him a few times a week, and I got my messages through to him in that way and got messages back, because we thought it would be not so good for him to receive too many visitors at any given time. But we did have a good conversation just before we had the birthday Eucharist. And it seems now that that conversation will have to stay in my heart as the last face-to-face contact, personally and alone, that the two of us had together.
And the two of you were basically on the same path, am I correct, in terms of the fact that you were in the church, but at the same time you were fighting against a very brutal apartheid system, and you had to use, for instance, the power of the church to put the message across. How difficult was it for the both of you during those days?
Well, at different levels, of course. It was difficult because remember that we emerged after 1976. Archbishop Desmond Tutu became the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches in '78. I became prominent in my own church in 1978, joined the struggle almost immediately in 1976 here in the Western Cape. And when he became General Secretary, he drew us into the council as theologians, as the younger radical theologians, in ways that we have not been drawn before. He became General Secretary in '78, and immediately he asked me to be the keynote speaker at the 79-year address, and we set out an agenda for the Black Church. How should the church respond to the Soweto revolution and to what was going on when the country was going up in flames, and how we saw the future of the church in the country at that time. So that was an enormous challenge. The churches had been silent for more than a decade. There was hardly any prophetic voices coming for the churches. And so when Desmond Tutu became the General Secretary, he called those silent voices together. And that's when our work began. And of course, it was extraordinarily difficult. But we were also told very clearly by the young people that the young people would want to trust us. They would want to follow our leadership, but they would want to first see where we stand on the questions of justice. We had to prove ourselves. And that was correct that they did that. And I think the response of the churches in those days, right through the 70s and the 1980s, were absolutely the right response for that time.
And Doc, I think I read somewhere in his autobiography where he talks about the fact that, after getting his master's in London at the University of London, he, in fact, it was the first time that he got to actually minister in front of a white congregation when he was still in London, before he even came back here home to South Africa. But also the importance of the man. I mean, he's important to the people of London. There are statues that are put up in that country or in that city to commemorate him, but he never really, felt that he was more important than other people. He was very warm. At least that was my experience when I was around him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there is not a Christian community in the world that does not remember Desmond Tutu, that does not honor him, that does not have the most wonderful ideas about their stay with him, his stay with them. So he is a truly, truly, truly worldwide figure and loved by all. But I mean, for those of us who got to know him, I mean, we would sit down and we would joke and we would chat together and we would say things and whisper things into each other's ears. That are just normal stuff. And he was, and in many, many ways, I mean, when Desmond was in his stride, he was like a naughty little boy. I mean, and he did that, I think, to bring to people the realization: look, you're just talking to a normal guy. I'm a dad. I'm a granddad. I can make a joke. I can take a joke, and I want you to know that we are together in all of this. And he had a warmth, of course, about him, a general warmth about him, deep feelings of compassion for people. And that they felt immediately. I never thought that there was one moment of artificiality about him, and I think people saw that immediately, and that's why he is so enormously loved. I don't think South Africans know just how this man was admired and embraced the whole world over, and how much they in the world saw him as a representative of the best in us.